Chapter 11. The Watcher in the Woods. It began almost imperceptibly. A flicker in the corner of my eye, too quick to catch, too elusive to name. At first, I thought it was just the wind teasing the branches, or my mind playing tricks on me, aching to find meaning in the silence. But the shape persisted. A pale figure standing just beyond the trees. Always there and yet never quite there. She wore a flowing white dress that seemed to ripple with the breeze. Long hair cascading like strands of moonlight. Her face remained a blurred memory and impression rather than a detail like a half-remembered dream slipping through my fingers. There were no footprints, no rustling leaves where she stepped, no breath in the cold air. Only the feeling of being watched, a weight pressing gently on the nape of my neck, as if the very air was holding its breath. I told Ethan about her one evening, over tea in the small kitchen, the steam curling between us like a fragile veil, his brow furrowed with concern, but he kept his voice calm, steady. "I think grief makes us see things," he said, brushing it off gently as if it were a trick of the mind. "Sometimes when we lose someone, our senses sharpen or falter in ways that aren't real." But I knew this wasn't grief talking. This was something else entirely. "It's not just grief," I told him. "It's presence. She's here." Despite his doubt, Ethan didn't leave me to face it alone. The next day he came with me. We ventured deep into the woods, where the air grew cooler and the shadows longer. We retraced the old trails we hadn't walked in years, the crooked path, where the sun filtered softly through the leaves, the riverbank where we'd spent countless summer afternoons, the swing hanging from the gnarled branches of the twisted oak that whispered secrets in the wind. With every step I felt her watching us, not with malice but with a quiet, patient longing, as if she waited for something lost, something waiting to be remembered. The forest around us pulsed with life, but also with secrets, the kind that settle in the bones. As we moved through the undergrowth, Ethan's foot nudged something. Beneath the porch floorboards of Gran's old cabinet folded, yellowed letter inside her gardening book. The paper crackled softly as I unfolded it, revealing a message not meant for me, but for someone named Lillian. "I warned them not to come here," in red. The letter read in looping script, faded by time. "But they never listen. The forest always remembers." I glanced down at the scarlet scarf I'd worn that morning, the same one wound loosely around my neck, bright against the muted greens and browns of the forest. A shiver traced my spine. That night, the line between dream and waking blurred. I was running through the woods, branches clawing at my face like desperate hands trying to hold me back. Behind me, the woman in white drifted closer, her dress flowing like smoke, trailing through the trees. Her arms stretched out toward me, but her lips moved without sound. Only a haunting hum filled the air, a melody woven into the rustling leaves, a song of the forest itself. When I jolted awake, my breath ragged and heart pounding, my fingers brushed against the pillow where the scarf should have rested. It was gone. Chapter 12. Broken mirrors. I woke to the soundless chaos. The mirror in the hallway had shattered. Not a crash. No shattering bang to wake the house. Just glass scattered across the wooden floor in a fractured spiderweb of silver shards, catching the soft morning light and splintering it into 1,000 tiny rainbows. The eerie stillness around it made it feel less like an accident and more like a warning. Ethan and I stood frozen at the edge of the wreckage, the silence stretching between us like a held breath. He dropped to his knees, carefully gathering the pieces into a pile, each fragment cold and jagged against his skin. I couldn't move, my eyes locked on the broken frame hanging on the wall bare, empty, as if something had been wrenched away. "There's no draft," I whispered, voice trembling. "No windows open, no breeze. How does a mirror just break?" Ethan looked up, his eyes dark with something unspoken. Maybe it didn't. His words hung in the air, heavy and cold. Cautiously, we inspected the frame and found fingerprints. Small, delicate, like the touch of a child, pressed deep into the dust and the chipped paint. Neither mine nor Ethan's. Later that afternoon, while dusting off the attic, a shadowy corner caught my eye. There, beneath a stack of forgotten trunks and moth-eaten blankets, lay an old leather-bound diary. Its cover was cracked and curling with age, the faint scent of musk and dust rising as I opened it. Inside, the name Lillian Wren appeared in flowing, elegant script, the same name from the letter we'd found. The pages were jagged, the writing erratic like frantic whispers spilled in ink. Fevered notes of dreams and shadows, girls vanishing every red season, and whispered bargains struck beneath blood moons. She walks between the trees, one entry read, the ink blotched and smeared. She is not death, but something colder, an echo of the forest's hunger. As I flipped to the last page, my breath caught. The paper was stained water, or maybe tears, or something darker that refused to be named. "She's coming for the last wren," the final line warned. I stared until the words blurred and twisted. Wren, my mother's maiden name. The weight of it settled on me like a stone sinking deep in a well. I didn't know if it was a curse or a prophecy, but one thing was clear: this story was far from over. Chapter 13. The Red Thread. The town's autumn festival arrived like a bright, noisy distraction, an attempt to mask something darker beneath the surface. Banners fluttered from lampposts, their colors faded but festive. The scent of caramel apples and roasted chestnuts mingled with the crisp, smoky air. Children darted past me wearing masks shaped like foxes and owls, mischievous, eyes painted beneath delicate feathers and painted fur. Their laughter tinkled like fragile glass, sweet but brittle. Yet beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of unease and unspoken fear that pulsed beneath the cheerful facade, like a shadow stretched too long across the sunlit street. I caught too many glances, eyes that lingered just a moment too long, faces frozen in smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. At the market, a woman with silver-streaked hair leaned close and whispered so softly, I almost didn't hear. "She's back." Before I could ask who, she slipped away into the crowd, swallowed by swirling scarves and swirling leaves. Later, at the bakery, the familiar bell above the door jingled as I stepped inside. Mrs. Alder, the old owner with eyes like storm clouds, pressed a small package into my hands without a word. "Your gran wanted you to have this," she said, her voice low and steady, a tremor of something ancient in her gaze. Inside the neatly wrapped bundle was a bracelet, a single red thread knotted carefully with practiced hands. "For protection," Mrs. Alder explained, her fingers lingering on the counter. "Don't take it off. Not now." I asked what it meant, what it was protecting me from. She smiled, a knowing, sad smile. "Some threads bind us to the past," she said softly. "Others keep the dark at bay." That night, I tied the bracelet tightly around my wrist, feeling the rough knot press against my skin like a promise. And my dream came back more vivid, more urgent. This time, the woman in white reached out, her fingers brushing against the red thread on my wrist. She recoiled as if burned, her mouth opening wide in a soundless scream that echoed in the hollow woods around me. I jolted awake, heart pounding, my arm tingling with heat where the thread rested. But when I looked down, one knot had loosened, frayed at the edges like a breach waiting to be exploited. Chapter 14. Between then and now. Ethan stayed the night. We didn't say much, not because there was nothing to say, but because the weight of everything hung thick between us, a silent presence that neither dared to break. He moved quietly around the kitchen, brewing tea with careful precision. The soft clink of the kettle and the faint hiss of steam filled the spaces where words might have been. I lit candles one by one, their flickering flames casting trembling shadows that danced on the walls. The silence wasn't cold or empty. It was heavy, like the calm before a storm, dense and expectant. Finally, I pulled Lillian's journal from the worn leather cover and placed it in his hands. He flicked through the fragile pages slowly, his brow knitting deeper with every line he read. "My dad used to tell me stories about her," Ethan murmured. "Lillian Wren. He said she vanished in these woods years ago. They said she drowned in the river, but no one ever found a body." "She didn't drown," I whispered, my voice taut with certainty. "She warned them. She was trying to protect them." We settled onto the worn leather couch, the fire crackling low in the hearth, sending golden sparks into the dark. Outside, the trees swayed wildly, leaves twirling like restless spirits, though no breeze stirred inside. I hesitated. "This has something to do with us." Ethan's eyes met mine, steady and resolute. "Us? Our families? This house? The trees? The history we can't escape?" He nodded slowly, the weight of that truth settling between us. "Then we face it together." Later, when the house was still and Ethan's breathing softened in sleep, I stood by the window, watching the woods beyond. There she was again, the woman in white, standing at the forest's edge, silent and still, a ghost etched in moonlight. Watching, waiting. Chapter 15. A Name in the Roots. The morning light spilled softly through the kitchen window, but I couldn't settle inside. Something gnawed at me, a restless tug that pulled me toward Gran's garden, toward the earth beneath her old maple tree. I didn't go to plant seeds or tend to the blooms. I went to search. The soil was cool and damp beneath my fingertips, rich with the scent of moss and decay, as if the garden itself was breathing beneath the surface. The air was thick with memory, the ghosts of seasons past pressing close. I dug carefully, feeling the earth yield around my hands like a secret waiting to be uncovered. The soft soil gave way to something solid and rough. My fingers scraped against the coarse grain of wood. A box small, worn, and wrapped tight with bark and twine, as if nature itself had tried to keep its contents hidden from the world. My heart hammered as I untied the fragile bindings, lifting the lid with reverence. Inside lay a journal unlike any I had ever seen before. Its pages were thick and textured, the cover made from bark that seemed almost alive, pulsating faintly under my touch. The first page was titled simply, "The Wren Lineage." It was a chronicle of generations' names etched in elegant script, stories passed down in whispered breath. My great-grandmother, her sister, women I'd only heard of in passing, suddenly vivid and present. The journal was filled with accounts of gifts mystical and strange and dreams that bled into waking hours. Tales of bargains made under blood moons, pacts forged with forces ancient and unknowable. The town's history, I realized, was tangled in something older than the oldest tree, something that lived deep within the roots of this land. The final pages were the most haunting of notes scrawled in hurried, jagged handwriting. The girl who returns must choose. Bind the forest or become it. I read the line again, each word weighing heavier than the last. Outside, the garden seemed to hold its breath. The trees rustled behind me, soft whispers through the leaves, even though no breeze stirred the air. It was as if the forest itself was waiting, watching, urging me toward a destiny I could not yet understand. The choice was coming, and I was unprepared for what it meant.